Here are 5 things that I recently came across on the internet that have terrified me to my core, and I hope they do the same to you. Now, before we begin, we just wanted to say that we are incredibly grateful for all of the support we've been receiving on Patreon lately. Just a few weeks back, we hit 10,000 members. Because of the support we've been receiving on Patreon lately, we are now able to restart the Top 5s podcast, aka the Hit the Lights podcast. We'll be uploading our first exclusive podcast episode shortly. If you want to stay up to date and also get exclusive videos, head on over to Patreon for more info. Now, if you haven't already done so, hit those lights, sit back, and enjoy. The Victorian Ghost on Westmoreland Trail. This piece of footage was posted to Reddit and sparked quite a debate. It was recorded with a GoPro as the poster cycled along the Westmoreland Heritage Trail in Pennsylvania, a serene 21-mile path of reclaimed railway that winds through woodland and over old bridges between Salisbury and Trafford. In the video, a woman dressed in what looks like Victorian clothing crosses the trail with her dog before quietly disappearing into the trees. Take a look at this. Neither the woman nor her dog appear to acknowledge the oncoming bike, continuing along the path without a second glance, and the dog showed none of the curiosity or alertness one might expect from an animal in such a situation. The individual who shared the footage noted that it felt less like observing a real event and more like watching a recording replay itself. They felt that the encounter had an oddly detached quality, as if the figures were not fully present in the moment. Reactions to the clip quickly divided opinion. Some argued that the woman's clothing was not Victorian at all, but closer to early American colonial or pioneer attire, pointing out the bonnet on her head and the apron tied around her dress. Others noticed the presence of Mennonite and Amish communities in the region, and suggested that she could simply have belonged to one of them. Another viewer proposed that she might have been a historical reenactor. To some it appeared to be nothing more than a woman walking through the forest. However, her clothing, particularly her bonnet and apron, was unmistakably old-fashioned. The sight of a woman dressed in such outdated fashion along a quiet woodland trail naturally sparks the imagination, especially since her demeanour seems distant, and even her dog didn't seem to notice anything unusual. A fleeting glimpse of something that feels out of place often conjures the idea that what was witnessed was the ghost of an unfortunate woman, possibly killed in a train crash, or took her own life on the tracks that once ran along the trail. The footage definitely shows something, but we'll let you decide what that is. The Missing Persons Shrine in a Long Island Forest. In 2016, James Rankin set out for a walk in the sheltered forest of Berkeley-Jackson County Park on Long Island. It was a trail he had taken before, familiar and uneventful, and he expected nothing more than another routine hike. Instead, what he encountered transformed the outing into something resembling the opening scene of a horror film. Deep within the woods, Rankin came across an eerie shrine dedicated to dozens of missing persons, scattered through the secluded trails. Near the decaying remnants of a makeshift shelter, tree trunks were covered with missing persons flyers. Their faded paper and weather-worn faces stared out at him, creating a chilling contrast with the quiet wilderness around him. It felt disturbingly personal, almost like intruding on a memorial, yet there was something about it that signalled menace rather than grief. Among the posters was one for Jennifer Kessie, the young woman from Orlando who had disappeared in 2006. Her photo, alongside many others from across the country, looked hauntingly out of place against the backdrop of leaves and bark. For Rankin, the whole thing made him feel incredibly uneasy. He began recording the unsettling scene. Take a look.
Anyway, I'll cut right to the chase because I might die. Look what these are. What the is going on in here? And this isn't like woods I've never been to. Like, I've been here before. I've been here a lot. I've been here so much, I've actually been to the hospital getting stitches because of some of the adventures that I've had. That's beside the point. These are all different f***ing people. And they're all just... This is Utah, Florida. They're all different. They're all different. Every single one. This one's from Georgia. And look at this. Like, look where the we are. Who the does something like this?
After examining the missing persons posters in more detail, James realised that they all corresponded to actual cases of missing individuals. Among them was a flyer for Tara Grinstead, a beauty pageant queen who vanished in 2005 and was never found. Another for Brenda Heist, who disappeared for 11 years before unexpectedly reappearing. Confused and alarmed, James contacted the local police for help, but he claims he was brushed off and they dismissed anything sinister, insisting there was no evidence of foul play. Instead, they concluded that the flyers were used as macabre Halloween decorations, distasteful and bizarre, but not illegal. Property owners reportedly put them up to create a creepy atmosphere. To James, this explanation seemed unlikely. The flyers looked that they had been there for some time, and Halloween was still weeks away. Why, he wondered, would anyone use the faces of real missing people as party decor? When he shared the footage online, it quickly went viral, and within days the video had been viewed over 1 million times. So was this an anonymous shrine, erected by someone with dark intentions, or a twisted prank? Some believe it was part of a viral marketing campaign for a horror film, while others were terrified at the thought that real missing person cases were being exploited as a cheap scare. The mystery took on a second life online, where Reddit users dissected every detail. Some suggested the posters were less about decoration and more about intimidation, a way for the property owner to scare off trespassers. Others scrutinized James's own video, pointing out that cars could be seen passing on nearby roads, casting doubt on his claim that the posters were hidden deep in the woods. The debate still rages on. It's unsettling, macabre, and has no clear explanation, leaving it open to the most chilling possibilities. What do you make of this one? Kisaragi Station Mystery. In 2004, a woman who later identified herself as Hasumi wrote online about her strange commute on a train from Shin Hamamatsu Station in Japan. She described how the passengers around her seemed to be asleep and how the train was skipping its usual stops. Unable to communicate with either the conductor or the driver, she turned to the internet for advice. After receiving responses, she updated her post to say that the train had finally stopped at a place called Kisaragi Station, an empty stop with no staff. Feeling uneasy, she got off the train and waited there while discussing her next move with other commenters. When forum users searched for the station online, they told her it did not appear to exist and urged her to leave the area immediately. Hasumi became increasingly disorientated. She wandered outside the deserted station for hours, hoping to catch a taxi, but none came. Eventually she found a telephone booth and called her parents, but they could not locate the station on any map. Soon afterward, she began hearing the sound of bells and an eerie drumbeat, like a festival procession, growing louder in the night. Desperate, she decided to follow the railway tracks, only to encounter a one-legged man who yelled at her not to walk there, before disappearing. Panicked, Hasumi ran into a tunnel, injured herself, and slowly made her way to the other side, where a man offered to take her home. She accepted, relieved to be off the tracks, and got into his car. At first he was friendly and talkative, but over time he grew silent and began muttering incomprehensible things to himself. Disturbed by his behaviour, Hasumi posted one last update on social media, saying that her phone battery was nearly dead and that the situation was becoming strange. She intended to run as soon as she found the right moment. After that, there were no further messages, and no one could verify who she was or what happened to her. Her disappearance gave rise to the enduring legend of Kisaragi Station. Many enthusiasts have tried to track down the mysterious place, with some visiting Saginomiya Station, believed to be the inspiration behind the story. To this day, however, Kisaragi Station has never been found, if it even existed at all. Surely just a creepypasta, but a creepy one at that. The baby Bigfoot of New York's Adirondacks. On May 23, 1997, Doug Prigden and his friends were camping at Lembo Lake ATV Park in Medina, New York. Years later, around 2003, Doug was reviewing the footage from that night when he noticed something unusual. The footage shows Doug and his friends gathering around a campfire, joking and having fun. In the background, you can see an upright bipedal figure moving along the base of a tree. At one point, a small ape jumps off the shoulders of this figure and climbs into the branches of the tree, swinging around with remarkable agility. Its movements are unmistakably ape-like, clearly beyond what any human could do. Take a look. The footage began circulating online in the 2000s, and eventually caught enough attention for Doug to appear in a 2011 episode of Finding Bigfoot that focused on the clip. Here is an analysis from the show.
In this particular video, known as the New York baby footage, you see a few people in the foreground. They're talking around a campfire, and it's behind them that you see a large figure walking behind a tent, and something hops off its shoulder and then starts climbing up into the tree like an ape. It goes up into the tree, moves around very quickly, and at one point hangs from a branch with two arms and just swings there. It looks like it's playing.
That full episode is still available to watch on the show's website, but it should be noted that Finding Bigfoot has a reputation for staging fake encounters and presenting questionable evidence. Even within Bigfoot enthusiast communities, the show isn't taken very seriously. Unlike many other alleged Bigfoot recordings, this one doesn't seem like a hoax, however. At least not one that was deliberately staged. The figure is barely visible in the original footage, and is often obscured by people walking into frame or sudden camera movements towards the campfire. Doug admitted he didn't even notice it until he converted the tapes years later and saw it on a larger television screen. The quality is so grainy that it's surprising anyone noticed it at all. Some viewers have also pointed out what looks like a person walking upright into the frame shortly before the baby Bigfoot leaps into the trees, suggesting that it could have been the animal's owner. As much as we would love it to be a baby Bigfoot, many believe the creature is either an escaped monkey or some other animal in the tree that was accidentally captured on camera. What do you think it was? Kris Kremer and Lisanne Froon. Now this one has always really creeped me out. You may have heard of it before because we covered it on this channel a few years back. But after doing some research online for other topics, I recently came across this one again, and went down the rabbit hole. It remains one of the most perplexing and unsettling mysteries of recent years. Both women were Dutch students from Amersfoort, aged 21 and 22, who had travelled to Panama for a cultural immersion trip. They planned to learn Spanish, volunteer with children, and explore the country. By all accounts, they were cheerful and responsible travellers, maintaining close contact with their families back home. On April 1st, 2014, the two young women arrived in the town of Boquete, located in western Panama. They began what seemed to be a casual hike along the Pianista Trail, a popular path celebrated for its scenic views. The trail is well marked up to a certain point. However, beyond the official viewpoint, it leads into more rugged and densely forested terrain, eventually connecting to the remote Caribbean side of the country. The last sighting of the women showed them heading out with minimal gear, and they were not dressed for an extended trek. At one point, they were accompanied by a local family's dog, which later returned home without them. When Kris and Lisanne failed to show up for a scheduled appointment with a local guide the following day, concerns began to grow. Their families in the Netherlands became alarmed when they did not hear from them, prompting an official search that started several days later. This search involved police, local volunteers, and specialized rescue teams equipped with dogs and helicopters. However, despite these extensive efforts, no trace of the women was initially found. But the first breakthrough occurred about 10 weeks later, when a local woman living near the bank of the Rio Calubra, also known as the Serpent River, discovered a blue backpack. It was confirmed to belong to Lisanne, and inside the backpack were both of their phones, 2 pairs of sunglasses, a water bottle, some money, and Lisanne's camera. The items were dry and neatly packed, despite having supposedly been lying in the rainforest. The camera and phones provided chilling clues. Phone records showed repeated, unsuccessful attempts to call the Dutch emergency number and Panama's 112, starting from the first day of their disappearance. Here's where things get very creepy. After April 6th, one of the phones stopped working completely, and the last recorded use of Kris's phone was on April 11th, when multiple incorrect PIN entries suggested that someone unfamiliar with the phone was trying to access it. The photographs from the camera added to the mystery. Earlier pictures captured the woman happily walking along the trail, but a sudden change occurred on April 8th. That night, 90 photos were taken between 1 AM and 4 AM. Many of these images were seemingly random shots of the dark jungle, the ground, and the rocks near a riverbed, and the back of Lisanne's head, an image that has been examined and speculated about, with no real answers. A few photos appear to show cut plastic bags arranged on a rock, possibly serving as a marker or signals. To this day, the purpose of these nighttime photos remains unclear, whether the women were trying to attempt to use the flash as a light source, marking their location, or trying to scare away animals. Weeks after the backpack was found, fragments of human remains began to appear in the same area. A boat containing Lisanne's foot and pelvic bones belonging to Kris were recovered downstream from the location of the backpack. Forensic analysis showed no clear signs of trauma, though some experts noted the bones seemed unusually clean, suggesting possible chemical bleaching from the river conditions, though this was never conclusively determined. Theories about what happened vary from accidental misadventure to foul play. Some believe the women accidentally wandered beyond the safe area of the trail and became lost in the unforgiving rainforest, ultimately succumbing to injury, exhaustion, or starvation. Others suspect a more sinister explanation, citing the peculiar condition of the recovered belongings, the long interval between the disappearance and the discovery of the backpack, and the unsettling phone activity. Despite the speculation, no solid evidence has ever confirmed the involvement of another party. Panamanian authorities ultimately concluded that Kris and Lisanne likely died as the result of a tragic accident in the wilderness. However, their families and many independent investigators remain unsatisfied with this explanation, citing unanswered questions and inconsistencies in the evidence. To this day, the case continues to attract international attention, with internet sleuths and true crime researchers analyzing every detail of the photos, phone logs, and forensic reports. The disappearance of Kris and Lisanne remains unresolved to this very day, and stands as a tragic reminder of the dangers that can lurk behind even seemingly safe adventures. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and we'll see you next week.